Brian, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are, the company, and your role?
I lead a safety and compliance organization at Unifi. Unifi is a comprehensive aviation services provider. We provide a variety of services from below wing ramp handling, busing operations in and around airports, passengers assistance with wheelchairs, cabin clean, just a number of tasks around airport airlines and airport ecosystem. We're just over 40,000 frontline employees, and we're touching around 2 million flight departures per year. Our largest customer is Delta Airlines. We also have a significant presence with United Airlines, Alaska, Spirit. We also do work with Southwest, JetBlue, British Airways. So we have a pretty vast portfolio of customers.
Great. Thank you for that context. I was reading the website and saw a quote from you that said safety is the number one priority for Unifi. We're constantly exploring new ways to leverage technology to improve safety for our employees, customers, and the equipment they operate. And so what does a culture of safety mean to you or at Unifi?
Yeah, really in aviation, you build your culture around an aviation safety management system. And that's really what we've worked to do. So along with an SMS and the basic pillars of SMS, there are some kind of key areas that I think are important for us to focus on. First off is a fair and just reporting culture. This is extremely important because at the end of the day, not only is the safety of our employees important, but also the safety of flight. And so we need a culture where individuals feel comfortable and free of reprisal to report things that go wrong or unsafe acts or activity. So that's probably one of the most important aspects for us in terms of culture.
Great. And it sounds like you have a very large distributed workforce. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, we're in over 200 locations right now, and we're operating in 4 countries.
How do you operationalize those safety initiatives and communicate it across such a large distributed workforce?
Messaging is key. So ensuring that all of our senior leaders are continually communicating the same message at any opportunity that we have to interact with employees, whether it's town halls, site visits, training sessions. I mean, that's huge, is that messaging alignment. Training is key. We leverage a learning management system that we use with all of our employees as part of the required training. So they're getting a consistent, clear messaging through training. And then we do daily safety briefings. And in those briefings, we always have, for example, quick QR codes to report hazards or concerns, along with the daily topic. But one of the most important aspects, I think, in consistency or in execution is using an observation tool. We've partnered with Benchmark, and we typically do over 500,000 safety observations a year. We have some pretty robust dashboards to track to ensure that we're doing the observations in different areas of our work. So even within a specific line of service, we'll track different pieces of that line of service to ensure that we're doing observations. And then we also look at not only the quantity of those observations, but the quality of those observations and the ability to identify coaching opportunities with individuals by specific leaders. We also use a hazard identification tool. We use a similar tool for recognitions now, so that really a lot of cases we find recognition submissions by peers are a hazard or concern report in disguise.
You mentioned empowering the leaders to address these safety issues on site. Can you talk to me about any training programs or initiatives you have specifically for the site managers?
Yeah, so we found we had a great tool and provider in Benchmark to help us facilitate these safety observations. But where we lacked, and really this kind of stemmed from the recent pandemic, where we had a lot of what we call battlefield promotions, where people who were basically showing up consistently and reliable became the supervisor or the manager. We really needed to focus on soft skills training. So we started with our contract leaders, who typically is the most senior leader on site at one of our operations. And the training program that they went through, really 2 parts. It's a cultural indoctrination, some tactical training, but also soft skills. And their training program focuses about 50% of the time on soft skills training, so how they behave as a leader and their approach, dealing with conflict and resolution and coaching. And then also all of the senior executives, members of the ELT team, including myself, we go to every one of those sessions and we all have an opportunity to speak with the leaders, both in a formal setting. We also do a more casual dinner one night as well. We launched the supervisor training, which we've branded Mentor Me. That launched about 2.5 years ago, so it kind of followed the contract leader training. And that training is about 80% focused on soft skills training. So usually our supervisors are really great frontline employees who do a really great job at the job that we ask them to do. And so it's about developing them as leaders and mentors to supervise, manage, coach employees.
I saw on your website too this quote: "We all strive to be personal leaders in safety. It is the expectation that every individual takes the necessary steps to promote a positive safety culture and ensure the health, safety, and security of our employees and customers." How do you think about driving the frontline worker ownership of safety at an individual level?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely important. Each year now, for the last 3 years, we've been running a summer safety commitment campaign where we focus on educating our employees on the difference between a culture of compliance, where they're doing things because they're told, because they're required, because they're monitored, and a culture of commitment. And so through that campaign, we create opportunities for them to practice, to demonstrate, and really just to showcase how they applied their commitment. And so we really work to educate employees and to ensure that they're all empowered to stop the operation at any point for a safety reason, that they know how to correctly perform a safety stop, which we call a stop, think, act event. There's really kind of 3 parts to that. And so we've done a lot of work to ensure that they all know they're empowered, they all know that they have responsibility, and they all have ability to either call a full stop or report any hazards or concerns. And if they choose to, they could, even choose to de-identify themselves through our friction-free reporting effort that we have as well.
How do you capture feedback directly from the front line? It sounds like Benchmark is the tool you use for that. How does that generally shape your approach?
Yes, just from a corporate perspective, we do an annual employee survey, and that has a safety and compliance component as well. But also there's some kind of overarching components just about overall company culture that really tells us a lot and gives us insight directly from the employees. We hold quarterly town halls where we provide updates to employees, but we also allow a question and answer session. And as we put applications in the hands of our employees to give them access to all the company content, materials, and communications, we've seen the interest and views of that increase significantly. And then, as I mentioned, we partner with Benchmark to create a friction-free experience where you can scan a QR code. You do not need to enter any sort of credentialing. You can choose to identify, de-identify, to bubble up those hazards or concerns. But our primary preference is to ensure that every employee is as comfortable as possible going to their direct supervisor, and that our supervisors and our managers understand their responsibility to resolve safety concerns. So ideally, the employees wouldn't have to use those hazard or concern reports. They're going to go to supervisors who have been trained, who understand how to deal with these situations, and they're partnered in working for contract leaders who understand the value of safety and compliance and take action.
I also read an article that you partnered with Microsoft and Artis Consulting to develop a program that leverages artificial intelligence and machine learning to help you identify these risks.
Yeah.
I'm curious, is this directly related to the frontline? Is this broader than that?
I would say it's broader. Our organization was a wholly owned subsidiary of a major airline. We were sold off, we went private, and in doing so, we had to stand up all of our key systems across our business. So people, EHS, asset management, financial systems. And when we did that, really a lot of credit to our CTO, who took the initiative to build out and aligned the data architecture across all of these systems so that all of our data, all of our corporate data would flow into the cloud. And so we use Azure as our cloud environment. We're a Microsoft shop. What I realized is that typically in the space of EHS, I'm kind of toiling around with, 6 to 8 dimensions of data from audits, incidents, that sort of thing. And most of that data is known as a lagging indicator. And so what we had the opportunity to do with all of our data in the cloud was to truly leverage machine learning to build out a comprehensive predictive analytics model to look at our operations in a three-dimensional space and to look at all of the different factors that truly impact safety and culture in our operation. Our model today, and again, as you mentioned, at the time it was Artist. Today, the organization has changed. It's Lantern, and we continue to partner with the experts at Lantern. But through some grant funding from Microsoft, we're able to pull in 508 different data points in what we call 30 different dimensions of data, weather, incident, people, and it's including things like turnover, longevity, turnover at the supervisor level, turnover at the manager level, turnover at the frontline level, overtime within those categories. So just a ton of different relevant data, 508 individual data points. We use targeted events that we wanted to mitigate, specifically lost time injuries. So these are injuries that are higher severity, more impact on individuals. And then also aircraft ground damages, which are a really important KPI in this industry. And then we have a model that kind of puts it all together. So we run 3 models. What the machine learning does is it looks at those different factors, and it's looked at the historical events in which they occurred, and it identifies where those same conditions or environments exist in real time and projecting forward out to 2 weeks. So we continuously have a daily updated risk register with all of our contracts across our organization, which gives us a lot of scalability in our business. And we're not just looking at, where things have happened, where the hotspots were, but where things are going to happen or are likely to happen. That is then where we, direct our quality assurance auditors. We held calls with the contracts. We brought in training and ground support and operations to kind of talk about the data and really understand what's going on in the operation. And again, we're doing all of this before the incidents occur. And so right now, since we've launched this, our aircraft ground damages are down about 22%. And when you think about those sorts of events with a $500,000 deductible and a $3 million cap, you're talking about some real dollars. And when we start talking about the occurrence of lost time injuries and our ability to improve these environments where injuries are likely to occur, we're talking significant positive financial impact in addition to preventing flight cancellations and delays and impact on our customers. And then not to mention the impacts for the individuals. When their operation runs well and people are not working excessive amounts of overtime and we're properly getting new leaders into the right training, and we're identifying higher than usual cases of out of service equipment or non-compliance and training. All of those factors, when people have all the right tools and all the right education, things run better.
Incredibly impressive. I'm not going to ask you how much that cost.
Well, I will tell you, it's not something you can go buy. Really, this isn't proprietary. It's something anybody could do. The key is you have to get all of your systems to put data into a cloud environment. And once you have your data there, we used off-the-shelf algorithms to run this. So we didn't invent any machine learning algorithms or anything like this. We used off-the-shelf algorithms, and we applied it to the data that we had. So the data was already there. It was already being hosted. It was already kind of part of our corporate infrastructure. What took time and resources was to essentially link this algorithm to those sets of data and figure out, ensuring the validity of the data and the quality of the data. So that was really what took a lot of the time and pressure. But really, this is something that any organization can do if their data is up to that standard.
Yeah. I'm curious too, not to get too geeky, but with Benchmark, is that a data point that actually flows into the cloud and through this model as well?
Yeah, Benchmark is a hugely important element to that because, again, incident history, when it comes to injuries, it does play a role. Our observations, what our supervisors are seeing and what they're coaching, different elements that they're coaching relate to the outcome differently. If you're coaching, a lot of our flight operations, will occur during the daytime. So, maybe having your vest on or not having your vest will have different impacts. versus wearing a seatbelt or not wearing a seatbelt. So the model is looking at all those different coaching elements, all that different data, along with the overtime and the longevity and the experience and the weather, all of those other factors. So, but yeah, benchmark data is a huge part of that. UKG is the system that we use for HR. UKG data is a huge part. And then a lot of our higher risk activities working in and around aircraft occurs outside. And so weather data that we've pulled in from third-party providers, that's important as well.
Yeah, wow, that's really, really impressive. Since we're talking about AI and machine learning and innovation, where do you see the biggest opportunity for innovation in frontline safety over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, it's definitely going to come with AI. We were part of the first pod group that leveraged Copilot from Microsoft. So we've been using Copilot to record our meetings, transcribe, attend with a virtual AI assistant, capture the action items, and then we've been leveraging Copilot to look at our data, check our emails, see what appointments we have to build out, what we've done and where there's opportunities in different areas. I mean, it's incredible. So it's taking that same kind of technology that we've been using in the back office and cascading it to be able to be used by frontline employees. And where we see some initial opportunities is through some of the evolving computer vision, smart glass, for example. There's some great providers in this industry. Synaptic Aviation is one of my favorite, but also Asaya, where they're using computer vision to monitor operations and provide data and feedback in cases like Synaptic, some real-time alerts. If a jet bridge is not stowed properly, that could be an issue for the next flight arrival, and it'll trigger those alerts. Well, if we can move that technology into glassware technology and essentially have each employee conducting a safety observation as they work, and then provide us with an opportunity to coach them or to basically communicate leveraging AI kind of directly out of the standards and coach that employee, you're going to have the automatic identification of the hazard or the risk, and then the automatic coaching and review of that. And I think that's going to be a huge opportunity, and we're getting very close to being able to use the technology in that way.
That's really, really cool. This is the kind of stuff we live for here. We geek out over this kind of stuff. One last question. What's next in your safety innovation journey?
I think the use of AI as a resource for our frontline employees and getting information, answering questions. So all of our manuals, all of our process guides, all of that accessible by an AI tool to provide that information to them. And then we're looking at some of the technology to facilitate that. Eyewear technology is a great opportunity, and also these are, the technology we're looking at is UL certified, so we can wear it outside, we can wear it in the rain, and also meets ANSI certification for eyewear protection. And then also, despite all the technology and all the success we've had, at the end of the day, we're lifting and moving a lot of bags and a lot of cargo. So there are some great companies doing some exosuits that have extremely long battery life. You can get these on and off within 30 seconds. I think just that lift and movement assist, removing 40% of the burden of that physical activity, those are some great tools.
Well, thank you so much. This was a really, really interesting, fascinating conversation. It just sounds like you're light years ahead in safety culture and technology, and I think this will be really, really valuable.